In this video, we're going to talk about the very first tools and plugins I would reach for if I was just getting started with Codex, Claude Code, and rebuilding my stack from scratch. This is important because there's a lot of noise out there, a lot of loud talkers on YouTube, and I guess I'm one of them. Every day it seems like there's conflicting opinions and some new thing is killing the old thing, and it just gets really hard to follow. So today we're going to talk about the things I've found actually useful and probably in order. Starting with the one that I think could do the most heavy lifting overall, and that is GitHub CLI. Let's jump into it. The reason this is so important is that GitHub isn't just where the code lives anymore. It's not just where you host your repos and whatnot. It's all the extra things on top of it that this can do. This can be the repo, the task tracker, the request pull system, automation runner, deployment trigger. So the GitHub CLI gives your agent direct access to take actions in GitHub. Core commands, browsing repos, looking for issues, writing skills, gists, and the like. You can also set up GitHub actions straight away, which if you're not aware is like an automation tool that GitHub provides for itself. So for example, a friend of mine's got a really good one where every time he posts a video, GitHub runs an action where it pulls that transcript and writes a blog post to post to his website. That's all run through GitHub. You can access that through the CLI. Like I was saying with deployments, you can use GitHub to sync to your web host like AWS or Vercel, and every time you make an update in your GitHub, Vercel sees the push and then updates your backend, whether it's your website or if you're hosting an app or something like that. It's all done automatically through GitHub, and you have direct access to that through the CLI. There are CLIs for Vercel and AWS and whatnot, but I mean, I don't use them anywhere near as much as I use GitHub, because if I'm pushing to GitHub, I've got rollback control, I've got my backups, and they automatically sync anyway. So I mean, why not just go directly to where I'm keeping the repo? So I mean, yeah, GitHub CLI seems boring until you realize exactly what it does for you, which is kind of everything. The second thing I would install is the Google Workspace CLI. And this is again, kind of more an infrastructure one that might seem boring off the top, but this gives you hands through the terminal to Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Drives, Tasks, Sheets, all the normal stuff that you want to automate anyway. This is the direct connection that your agent has to the Google Workspace. This is important not just for getting hands on your daily work and stuff, but it's also the first step in moving your agent outside of this kind of like sandbox that it's in. Often I'll have an agent go do some research or something, and I'll be like, can you email this to me when you're done? Or like, can you make an SOP and turn this into a Google Doc? Generate a spreadsheet, upload this to Drive, or hey, can you make a note on my calendar for this sort of thing? It all comes together really quickly. Looking at this article from Mind Studio, it sums it up perfectly. Like how this differs from direct API access is it takes care of all the things that usually slow you down. Authentication is managed through one auth command. Once you authenticate, credentials are cached locally and refresh automatically. So I'm not sure how many of you have used Google OAuth before, but it is frustrating sometimes, and especially across the different products. All of this is just kind of grouped together, so it is normalized across the board. And that includes error handling. All of that is essentially just in the one place. Practically speaking, this is really great for helping to put together your own workflows. I've got one /today that pulls in every morning when I start it. It pulls in my unread emails, my to-dos, my calendar, just to see how I can plan my day. And I'm not spending 45 minutes at the outset trying to put together a to-do list. It's got all of that gathered in one place and helps me organize the day accordingly. The next one I would reach for is no surprise to anybody that's been watching me for any period of time is the Obsidian skills repo from Kipano. He's the CEO of Obsidian, and he put together this repo just with different Obsidian skills and a CLI included. I don't think of Obsidian as a notes app anymore. I think of it kind of like a chassis, and it's a really modular program that you can add a bunch of modular, right? So you can add a bunch of different things to it. So what this does is it essentially teaches your agents how to use Obsidian. It's also got the Obsidian CLI, which helps your agents with putting together plugins and theme development and just custom things like that, which is something that I'm still going deeper into, but it is really cool to be able to go and have this tool to help customize your own workspace. Outside of being a really cool platform to just add things to and customize, Obsidian is best used as a memory layer for AI agents. It fills in a lot of the gaps left by a lot of these different agent harnesses like Claude Code, like Codex. For me, it is context. It's where my projects, daily notes, tasks, research, scripts, prompts, like everything lives here, and it's all tagged so that it's easily discoverable with my AI agent as well. This is also where all my skills and workflows live. I've aggregated them from Claude Code, from Anti-Gravity, from Codex, and I've put them all in the one place so that I've got one single source of truth regardless of what I'm running, and it's consistent. I bring my AI to my workflows rather than my workflows to my different AI agents. And believe it or not, the window you're looking at right now is Obsidian. It's got my web browser, it's got my terminal, my different agent frameworks, it's got all the different like plugins I use to create content, including video editing. I've got everything built in to this one window. It's pretty awesome. If you're enjoying the video so far, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. YouTube tells me there's only 7% of you that are actually subscribed to the channel, so if you can make sure that you are, it also lets YouTube know you want to see more content just like this, and it helps me out a ton. Let's get back into it. Number 4 is Superpowers. This one is less about giving the agent new capabilities and more about making it behave. There are a few plugins that do something similar to Superpowers that are pretty popular, like GSD and the like, and they're very important. I think a lot of people are missing this actually. They just kind of like go in guns blazing into their like Claude Code or Codex instance and hope for the best. So what it is a complete software development methodology for your coding agents built on top of a set of composable skills and initial instructions to make sure your agent uses them, okay? It's a set of instructions essentially so that the output of your agent is always well thought out and consistent across the board. So the basic workflow is in the GitHub repo here where they're brainstorming. We make sure we're working in a clean space. We write a plan, then we test the plan, we review the output of the tests, and then we actually push to development. Okay, so it's just a way to make sure that your agents aren't going off on crazy tangents. You're like developing a really structured, well thought out and brainstormed plan of attack. I myself even just use the brainstorming skill in isolation sometimes to plan some stuff out for myself with content, with, you know, thinking about how I'm going to design my funnels or websites or things like that. This is definitely my favorite of like the agent planning behavior sort of plugins that are out there. They all do a pretty good job, but this one I think is just a cut above in terms of the level of detail and consistency you can get out of it. Number 5 is Browser Harness from Browser Use. I like this so much I actually did a video on it. You can check it out on my channel right here. This is a browser AI agent that learns the more it surfs the web, I guess is like a weird sort of correct way to say it. It's a simple thin harness that was built directly on top of the CDP. So what that means is this uses remote debugging to run the browser from Chrome directly rather than using something like Chromium or Camouflux or something like that that usually gets flagged for like anti-bot detection from a lot of different websites. Before this came out, I used to use Playwright for browser automations and some combination of like Firecrawl and Playwright to get information off the web, but this has replaced that wholesale. The cool thing about this is, like it says, it's self-healing. So the more you do with it, the more it learns. And they've already got some domain skills from actually like going through different websites. And a really practical one, just for example, is like TikTok. You can post or upload videos or carousels to like TikTok, or Instagram is another big one since their Meta API is kind of, or a graph, whatever it's called, is kind of a nightmare to connect to. Browser Harness can go and just do it manually like it was you sitting at the desk. This is also obviously really great for web scraping and getting information from directories and databases and the like. However, be careful because this is also extremely easy to violate terms of service, right? Like this bypasses Cloudflare and all the other bot detection stuff. So, I mean, it is really easy to slip into some like ethical and moral gray areas with this sort of thing, especially when it comes to like privacy protection and that kind of thing. So, you know, be cool. This is definitely helpful, but, you know, be good. Next is Swashu Design, and this one's actually the newest one on the list. It is not something I've used extensively because it's just recently come out. I'm definitely better acquainted with some of the other ones on this list. However, I really like this already because broadly speaking, design has been one of the weak spots of AI agents. You've got design specific agents that suck at code, or you've got code specific agents that suck at design. And then you have to add in all these other tools. This is a skill that trains your coding agent to be good at design, or at least follow consistent brand guidelines and whatnot. It gives your agent assets and references and scripts and demos, really just teaches it the basics of design. So instead of just like saying, make this look better to your coding assistant, this actually gives it a framework and like a frame of reference in terms of like what good looks like and how to get there. All right, and number 7, last one on the list, is FFmpeg. And I kind of love ending here because of all these other tools and all this like new AI technology. One of the things that I still use every single day is this like ugly, really old command line workhorse that has been around for, I had to look it up, it's actually like 25 years old, but it's just worked the whole time. So all FFmpeg is a collection of tools that edit media, audio or video. It does all things media, whether it comes to like captions, transcodes, compression, audio extraction, video cleanup, adding voiceovers, adding music, putting 2 videos together, whatever it is, this is the tool. And it's kind of funny because there's all these new video editors or, you know, new AI things that are coming out, and they're all built on FFmpeg in the back end. So how I use this is content, obviously, right? This is why this is so important to me, because this is a really huge part of my business, whether it's filming or clipping, captioning. I use FFmpeg in my workflows every single day. It's not like glamorous. It's a 25-year-old library, you know? It's just kind of cool that AI can now give this sort of thing superpowers, so you don't have to write lines of code in terms of like how to use this. AI can just kind of like drive this thing for you now, right? The reason I was so excited about this particular tool and adding it to the list is not just because I use it all the time, but like it actually highlights the whole point of what I'm trying to say in this video, is that the best tools aren't necessarily the newest, flashiest, loudest ones. They're just the ones that work. So it's really important that once you find something that does the job for you, don't worry about all of the new things or like whether it's gonna die next week according to YouTube or anything. Like if it works, man, just roll with it. It's absolutely not worth losing your hair or refactoring your workflows because somebody got into an argument on Twitter or something like that. So that list again, for the full functionality stack that I would go to first: GitHub CLI for like workhorse, actually getting stuff done; Google Workspace for connections; Superpowers is like a process or execution layer; Obsidian absolutely as like the environment, process optimization, and memory; Browser Harness for all things web browser; Swashu for design; and FFmpeg for media manipulation. There are a few honorable mentions like Superbase for sure, or the hosting CLIs like I was talking about before, like Vercel or AWS, but those are a little bit more niche. These are like, if you have these or something equivalent, these will definitely, you can do anything with this. If you liked the video or found anything helpful, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. Super helps me out, and it also lets YouTube know that you want to see more stuff like this. And if you're interested in my Obsidian workspace, you can get it for yourself in my school community, or you can check out this video right here for the basic framework. Thanks for hanging out with me. We'll see you in the next one.